everybody, and welcome to this session hosted by the Advanced Services Group. I'm Neil Tumber, a Senior Industrial Fellow with the Advanced Services Group, and my role there is to act as a bridge between the research of the academics in the university and the practitioners out there in many companies, companies just like yours. In this session, we're going to take questions as we go through, listening first to Kate and then to Stefano. To ask a question, please raise your hand. At the bottom center of your screen, you should see a number of icons. The one to the right is the icon of someone raising their hand. So if you want to ask a question at any time, please click there and we will then unmute you and allow you to ask your question. To confirm, we'll take questions as we go along. The other thing to note is that this session is being recorded and will be made available afterwards so that you can listen again and pick up the key points that maybe you missed or you just want to hear again as we go through. So just to briefly introduce everybody, we'll all make a more full introduction as the session goes along. We're going to be hearing from Kate, Kate, who is a product manager at Domino Printing Sciences, and then after that with Stefano, who is the founder and now CEO of the organization Servitly. And I'm Neil Tumber, the Senior Industrial Fellow from the Advanced Services Group. The Advanced Services Group is based at the Aston Business School. We're focused on excellence in servitization and advanced services, and we've been in this field for over 20 years now. The world's most highly cited scholars. There are many ways to interact with us and take advantage of the research that we do, or even get involved in the research. And for that, you can go to our website, and the website will be on the last page of this presentation as we go through. Domino is a member of our Advanced Services Partnership. We have approximately 10 large companies all working together on the servitization journey and helping us with our research and benefiting from the research that we do. And Servitly is one of our key strategic partners who have a technology that enables companies to move towards advanced services. So today, as I say, we're going to be listening first to Kate from Domino, and under the leadership of Kate, Domino Printing Sciences has carried out a number of visits to customers, virtual visits, you'll understand, in the past year, to understand much more about the customer and what their real needs are. And that needs are showing that they do want advanced services to enhance the way that they perform. And Servitly, on the other side, provides a system with standard workflows to connect and monitor products wherever they are in the world. And so bringing those two things together, as we are for this session, this discussion, Servitly provides a key enabler of advanced services, so that Domino, in this case, will know where their printers are, but in your case, wherever your products might be in the world, how are they performing? Are they delivering what your customer needs from that device? And so now it's my pleasure to hand over to Kate. Kate, if you'd like to introduce yourself and then tell us a bit more about how you understand customer needs.
Thanks, Neil. Just turned my camera on, even though it's just a tiny little dot in the corner, just to say hi to everyone. Good afternoon. I joined Domino just this year, and my remit is very much to understand and translate customer needs in order to help us to develop our existing range of services and to expand into new, more advanced services. So I'm going to talk today about how I'm gathering that customer insight and how Servitly has helped us to lay the foundations for that future growth. So I'll start with a brief introduction to Domino. We are a global company headquartered near Cambridge with a turnover of nearly 500 million. We manufacture a range of specialist industrial printing equipment, some of which you see on the slide here. So from compact inkjet printers through to labelers, thermal transfer printers, lasers that etch the surface off a material, and right up to digital presses that could be the size of your living room. We sell those products through a mix of direct subsidiaries in some countries, regional distributors, and also integrated into some packaging lines by machinery providers who provide those complete line solutions for end users. So my focus actually is in the coding and marking applications, which is essentially what we're talking about, printing production information, variable information like best before dates, barcodes, etc., onto packaging typically, or industrial equipment devices. So many of our customers are in food and bev, healthcare, pharmaceuticals, very happy customers like the man that you see here. We support them with a range of maintenance contracts and related services, largely designed to keep them up and running and to improve the performance of the printers. So these are really the enablers that we're building on to get to a point where we might be able to guarantee an outcome. So they include things like automation software, which links the changing of codes or messages through to the ERP system, so that when a product changes, the printer knows exactly what code needs to be printed onto that product. We have an augmented reality app to provide remote assistance and a remote monitoring and diagnostic system that takes printer performance data up into the cloud. And I'm going to talk a bit more about this in a moment. We do have another division responsible for those large digital presses that we saw on the last slide, that they can be used for, again, printing packaging or documents, leaflets, books, etc. And there is some crossover in terms of the requirement for cloud-based tools and services, but also those customers do have very distinct needs around things like document flow, color management, order management, that sort of thing. But what I'm talking about here is really around the coding and marking opportunities. So more about our remote monitoring systems, imaginatively called Domino Cloud. This consists of a communications device that's usually bolted onto the side of a printer, and it sends performance data up into a dashboard where either a customer can log in to see what's happening with their machines, or our service desks or our distributors' service desks can keep an eye on things and help with any fault resolution if they need to. And this is where Servitly has been helping us for a number of years. They have implemented our data storage, analysis, workflow, and user interfaces, so all of the dashboards that we have within Domino Cloud that show things like the live status of the printers, snapshots of settings and metrics, also trends over time, troubleshooting information, instructional videos, and even a facility to set alerts so that if there's a warning on the printer, it can email a customer, let them know that perhaps they need to refill the ink or clean the print head or other such action. So this has really been a valuable tool for us to improve printer uptime by giving customers that notice that they need, or getting them up and running again quickly in the event of a failure. We know that that is really a key concern for many manufacturers. And this is what I'm hearing in much of the voice of customer work that I'm doing. So this is a real quote from a customer that I spoke to recently out in North America. Shows just how costly downtime can be for a business, in this case $500 a minute. So as a result, this customer, they have a full service contract with us. They have remote monitoring devices on all of their machines, but they even keep a spare printer at a cost of several £1,000s, just in case one fails, just in case they need to get back up and running again as quickly as possible. So it really just highlights how important this is, and the opportunities for us. Some of the other drivers really that led to introducing this remote monitoring service were the potential savings that we could make across field service visits being avoided, where we could actually fix more things on the phone. The opportunity for us to learn from all that performance data and improve our product design. And of course, as Neil alluded to, we need to have a good understanding of where the printers are, how they're being used, how much they're being used, what are the causes of failures that are out there, and how do we overcome them. And all of that learning is going to drive the new advanced service development. And of course, it gives us a platform on which to build additional services. So the process that we're currently going through to get us to that new array of services is, we started off really thinking about what can we do today, or what could we do with perhaps more investment or a different focus that could help us to get up to a point where we can guarantee an outcome for a customer. So if we took uptime as an example, clearly Domino Cloud and our augmented reality app would both help the customer to get back up and running again in the event of a failure. But also that cloud monitoring system is just telling us how long has a printer been down, so we know, are we actually meeting the commitments that we may have made to a customer. Then we outlined some key customer segments who might benefit from these particular services based on what we knew about those groups at the time, at that point in time. Now, obviously, we're doing customer interviews, we're learning more and more. So we're testing that initial understanding, but we're also seeing what else can we learn if we start asking more questions about the business direction, strategic elements of business challenges, things that perhaps we've never asked these customers before. And that's allowed us to create some new value propositions that are particularly matched to certain needs that have come back. The next step is actually to take those value propositions, replay those to customers to say, okay, this is what we think we've learned and what we think we can do differently. Does that sound of value? How would you know whether it's a success? How would it need to work within your business? So we can really fine-tune the service, ideally then get a trial in a select number of sites so that we've got that full learning ready to launch something into the market.
Excuse me, Kate, before you move on,
Yeah.
I'm going to ask you a question, and I'm going to take this opportunity to remind everybody that if at any time during the presentation today you do have a question, just raise your hand and then we will switch on your microphone so you can ask your question yourself. But my question to you, Kate, is about the customer segments. When you're talking about services, are they the same segments that you use when you're talking about selling the product, or is there something different there?
No, they're quite different actually, Neil. We've got these multiple different types of technology that can print onto different types of material. They've all got different technical capabilities. So probably when we would approach a customer out in the field to sell them a product, we'd be leading with, okay, is it likely to be a plastic packaging? How fast might they be running the line? Are there considerations around being on foodstuffs so that perhaps the ink may need to be of a certain type, or avoiding inks altogether because of concerns around using things in certain environments. So there are really quite different targets to the services that we would offer, which are more based on, as I say, on particular needs. So for instance, a seasonal business might have a high staff turnover. They might have difficulty in retaining a lot of knowledge from one year to the next for a specialist piece of equipment. And that sort of highlights an opportunity for that particular group of customers to do things differently to an average business that doesn't see those seasonal fluctuations.
Thanks, Kate. That's very helpful.
Okay, I've just highlighted some areas that you might want to think about if you're thinking of embarking on this sort of process, some things that we've learned along the way. So choose your customers carefully. You need to be speaking to those who are open to innovation, supportive of your business, and hopefully that then means that they're willing to give you the time and the feedback that you need to make this a success. You might need to limit the target, really, the scope of this to maybe 1 or 2 geographies or industry sectors, just to avoid getting too many different requirements. Sometimes they can even conflict. So perhaps being very specific and targeted to start off with, and then broadening it out as you go. Keep your customers involved, so keep checking in with them as you design the service, rather than make assumptions about how to translate those needs into solutions. So keep asking for feedback, and then when possible, transfer this into a business as usual activity. That may well involve retraining your customer facing staff to be able to ask the right sort of questions to uncover those new opportunities. So the sorts of questions I would ask are high level strategic business directional questions, rather than the ins and outs of how they use the product, which could lead down to a conversation really about product design. Thirdly, try to get costs or revenue opportunities, understanding the real value of a change in a customer's process will give you an idea of not only how important is it for your business to go ahead and develop something new, but also what might be an acceptable pricing level. So really trying to get numbers behind some feedback can be very, very helpful. And then speak to different people within a business and you'll get different perspectives. So a procurement person might give very different insights to a production manager, but both of those are going to be valuable and worthwhile. So where possible, speak to anyone involved in the buying decision to understand their challenges, their views on opportunities, and to hopefully avoid any potential objections that they may have in future. So here's another comment that I had back from a customer. really highlights the need for data in today's world to make decisions, to make smart decisions, and to be able to look after industrial equipment, certainly. So it shows us really how useful a remote monitoring system can be. But one of the things that we're learning is that there's really scope to make it even more predictive, even more able to allow customers to really future plan and forecast any service and maintenance needs. So yes, the Domino Cloud today provides those alerts to users. Let's say if a printer is running low on ink, but what it doesn't do, that maybe there's an opportunity to change in future, is to tell you whether you now need to reorder based on your past order history. So just saying you're running low and you need to refill this printer is useful, but also saying, and we noticed that you haven't ordered any in the last 3 weeks and that you may be about to use your very last cartridge, is particularly useful. So that gives us some indication of directions that we can go in future to make the service even more valuable. Likewise, we give alerts that printers need action taking, but it may only be a few hours notice for certain things. And actually, with maybe days or weeks notice, that can really allow for that better planning. And again, we may be able to identify when a failure could happen on a machine, but at the moment, are there really is there really good data to show what the incremental changes may be year on year for the printer as it ages, and perhaps the performance might change over time. So this is where more data, more machine learning, more different types of dashboards and alerts could be really useful. So we've gathered lots of insights, lots of ideas to put into action, and we've still got a lot more customers to interview. But we look forward to working with Servitly to make many of these ideas a reality. And so on that note, I will wrap up and just offer the opportunity to ask any more questions before I hand over to Stefano.
Very much, Kate. Everyone, if you'd like to ask a question, please do click on the icon at the bottom of the screen, and we can unmute you and you'll be able to ask your question. It seems not, Kate. Yes. Wade Wessels, please. Ellie, can you unmute Wade, please?
You should be able to turn on your microphone, Wade.
Yeah, great. Wade, if you'd like to turn on your microphone, you can ask your question, please. Wade,
There we go.
Yeah, there we go. Thank you.
All right. Hello, sorry for that. Quick question, Kate. And maybe it applies for the larger equipment that you were showing. How do you deal with the transition? Maybe I'm assuming maybe some of your customers have invested in some of the legacy data communication systems like SCADA or DCS or something to that effect. How do you address that with your customers in moving them to something that's more cloud-based?
Thanks, Wade. I think that probably both have a place, and we wouldn't necessarily assume that we would replace any existing systems. Some may be in place for particular reasons, and we want to support the ability for the manufacturers to see what's happening on their line, on their SCADA system, but also to be able to perhaps run some reports for what's happened this week and this month, and see whether there are particular issues that may need addressing. So I think probably both have a place, and we want to just make it easy for our printed data to be able to integrate with existing systems where that is the preference, or provide these dashboards and another system isn't being used. So really having the option to export the data from the cloud where necessary, or take an API into another system is hopefully giving the customer the choice to use the data in whatever way they see fit. I hope that answers your question.
Yes, thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Wade, for your question. Thank you, Kate, for your presentation. And moving on now, it's a pleasure to hand over to Stefano to tell us how Servitly can, like Domino, to engage with their customers and get data back from their product in the field. Welcome, Stefano.
Thank you, Neil, and good afternoon, everybody. We are focusing on the top part layer of the IoT stack. So when we talk about servitization, connected services, of course, the starting point is to have a connected product. So to exploit the IoT technologies in order to extract value from the data you collect from products. So our focus in Servitly is offering a system instead of letting customer like Domino to develop from scratch a complete bespoke application for managing their digital product service system. We are offering a system. So we are offering many functionalities that are ready to use, and this could be very helpful in order to accelerate the servitization journey, and also in order to avoid some pitfall that could happen while following this journey. In fact, typically what happens, we saw some cases where starting point was a product that was made connectable using IoT technologies. So the OEM started this project to connect the product, add some IoT technologies like gateways and connectivities, maybe a device management or IoT platform. But very often this ends with producing a lot of data and having a lot of questions about how to exploit this data, what we can do now with all this data. And it's not, in some ways, it sounds obvious, and many of also technology providers are saying, okay, that data is the new oil, so that there is so much value in data, but it is not very easy to extract value from this data. So, and the road from using this data in order to support connected services or advanced services can be very hard. So our idea is that we are helping companies like Domino to quickly move from this land of desolation where you don't know exactly what you do with this data to fully exploit the data in your connected services, and also move from connected maintenance services to advanced services and even equipment as a service. And we can do this because this is possible. So it is possible to offer a system, because when we analyze many different kind of application, also in different industries, we find that the majority of the software functionalities are non-differentiating features. So how to manage users, accounts, subscriptions, association between products and customers, manage dealers, manage a portal, manage communication, messaging. All these kind of features are the same. So, and it is a waste of time for an OEM to develop this feature, because they doesn't need really evaluate, and it also a work that requires also software knowledge and software engineering knowledge in order to be scalable. So in our vision, OEM with this system have the possibility to focus only on the 20% of the features that generate the 80% of value. And these features are the unique features. And so we are offering a way to visualize and see and change very quickly this configuration in order to deliver the value without having for the OEM to care about all the low-level software functionalities. This can bring many advantages to an OEM, and one of these advantages, and is very much related to the topic of listening to customer voice, that is implementing an agile cycle, a build, measure, learn cycle. So when you have to listen to your customer, you have also to deliver them something, and Kate said us also listen to their feedback. So it is very important to implement a cycle where you can deliver something to your customer and understand what is the feedback, measure the feedback, and learn from this feedback, and to how to improve the service and improve digital capabilities and in general the value for the customer. So it could be very hard to implement this cycle if the OEM had to manage all the application stack, because many things could change and the cycle could be very, very slow. But since Domino is working only on the topmost 20% of features, Domino can be very, very fast in implementing this cycle and quickly add new parameter, new KPI, new kind of measures in, so they can can be very effective in accelerating this cycle. And a second task that it's not easy to do is ramping the ladder of data, information, knowledge. So raw data is useless per se. The first step is to transform data into information, but this is not yet enough. You have also to transform information into knowledge. So having a system help manufacturing company focus on how to do this transition, because this is related to the knowledge of the manufacturing company, to the know-how of the manufacturing company. So this is the core of the 20% of unique feature and unique knowledge, proprietary knowledge that each OEM can exploit in order to deliver value. So how we transform data into information, so how we transform data from printers into information about usage, about availability, about performance, and how we can build also a knowledge. So not only a single information, but putting together all the information along the time, month after month, year after year, and having a clear knowledge of our installed base, or how our customers are using our products. So we are helping this in this way because we free Domino from taking care of all the software functionalities, and we let them focus on this value work. And we are doing this by offering some example of how value-based work can work in conjunction with ready-to-use software. Is highlight here 6 areas where we can join the knowledge of Domino about how to calculate availability of the printer, or the performance of the printer, or the quality of the printing, or how to calculate the optimal usage, or the consumable level, or some troubleshooting options. So for these 6 areas, Domino is giving the knowledge that we translate into features. So and these features are have a standard standard implementation, standard software implementation. So talking about quality, it does not depend about talking about printers, fridge, ovens, packaging machines. So it's always the quality concept. Even performance is a general concept, and also availability and consumable. And so these are general concepts where we can offer a framework of workflow and visualization reporting. And then the core is adapted to each particular case. So this is very important also to address different roles. So Kate before said it is important to talk with different roles inside the customer. So the operator, the production manager, the procurement. So for each of these roles, there is a way to show information that could be the most accurate representation of the value. And the value is different also depending on the role. Okay, I hope that this was clear enough, and I'm open to any question.
Thank you, Stefano. That's very interesting. So if a company comes to you asking for support, where do you start in trying to understand what they're trying to do and how you can support them?
Yes, first of all, we start from understanding where they are on this journey. So they have already built a connected product. So they are already receiving data from the installed product or not. So we have to understand if there is already a data set to work with or not. And then we try to understand what could be the accelerator that we could exploit in order to extract value from this data. So the accelerator could be data about availability, about performance, about quality, or about troubleshooting. So very often the data is there, and we only need to give them the correct label and develop the correct algorithm to translate raw data into this more value information and knowledge. So working with customer, we understand how we can transform this data into some of these value blocks, and from that point on we deliver. So we are already we can already deliver a solution, so implement a system in order for the customer to see, to visualize what a service could be, what a connected service could be, what their customers see. So we see we play an important role in letting all the stakeholders visualize a service. So you see and touch a product, but you cannot see and you cannot touch a service. So it is a role of the DPSS system is also to visualize and let all the stakeholders visualize a service.
Thank you, Stefano. Ellie, Ian Machin has his hand up. If you could unmute him, please.
Yeah, thank you very much indeed, Neil. Stefano, just a question for you. Assuming that when you speak to a new client, they have some of that base level connection, so you're not trying to build it from the ground up. How long does it take from initial discussion to when you can implement something to let them see what a potential solution looks like? When do they see some quality data that they can try and understand? Is it weeks, months? What sort of timescale are people looking at?
Much less than that. It would be some days. So provided that we have already some data and we have already some data lake or cloud solution or even direct connection to product available, it is a matter of a few days or a few hours even to have a running solution and see something.
Okay, thank you, Stefano. That's great. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ian, for your question. The opportunity to ask questions is now for everybody, both of Stefano and of Kate. At the bottom of the screen, there is the icon to raise your hand, and as soon as you raise your hand, we'll give you the opportunity to speak. While we're waiting for people to think of, Andrew Smith has a question, please, Ellie.
Hello, Kate. Hello, Stefano. Yeah, I just was listening to the discussion and also the question about sort of how does Servitly deal with new customers and kind of get them going. We are currently not quite yet a customer of Servitly. I can speak into the sort of experience that I've had, that we've had. I think within a couple of days, I think Stefano was able to kind of let us log into a sort of test dashboard, which has kind of given us something in the company to kind of show around, and people can immediately see the applicability, that it's not just a dashboard. There's kind of a place to put documents, and it links together a lot of functions. So yeah, I think just to kind of back that up in terms of our customer journey. I don't think Stefano knew I was going to be on the line, and I've certainly heard Kate talk before about her journey. It just connects very well with where we are on this journey and the role that Servitly kind of playing in helping us explore that. And we're still not yet customers, but we're finding it very helpful.
Thank you, Andrew. For everybody on the call, could you just tell us what your product is, please?
Yeah, so LBBC provide autoclaves into mainly the aerospace industry. Is a big customer. So we sort of sell to people like Rolls-Royce, as well as smaller companies that are making things like turbine blades. And we're looking at this in a big area across the sort of product range. There's other products that don't go into aerospace, for which servitization is a much more interesting prospect. And we already had industrial IoT capability, and around the time that we sort of a couple of people from LBBC attended the servitization conference, and had already been thinking about. We had already done done a lot of trials. We're already currently have a database where we aggregate data and are already using it to make business decisions. But we're looking for other layers on top of that bring together a lot of different things that customers have to get good at in a servitized product. So, for example, who touched the machine last, and what did they last change? It's fine having data on temperatures and pressures, but if you actually don't know when the last time we changed that probe or that pump, was, you're getting half a story. So you do need IT integrations of some of these different things. It's not just about data visibility. It's about integrating who spoke to the customer last and what interactions have we had, and that also needs to be seen on a single page, because you might have new people in your service and maintenance department for whom they're getting the call from a customer the first time. So they need to have the data right in front of them.
That's very interesting, Andrew. Thank you very much. If you could just stay available, please. I'm going to ask a question now to you. No, yeah. Don't take this as punishment, opportunity. So yeah, if Andrew, if you wouldn't mind staying on the line, and Kate, please, and Stefano, I'd like to ask all three of you, in the context of, I think exploring the data is a little bit like exploring a mountain range. As you're walking along, you can see the horizon or the peak of the hill currently in front of you, but when you get to the top, you suddenly see the false peak, and there's another hill to climb afterwards. I'm trying to use that as a metaphor, because once you start to explore the data and extract the information from it, you begin to see other opportunities. And Kate, I was wondering if you could start us off, please, and what other opportunities have you seen now that you've been connected in this way?
Yeah, thanks, Neil. I think that's a good point. We're going to be learning a lot as we go, and certainly with our multiple different technologies, the behavior of the equipment and the behavior of the operators using that can be quite different. I think one of the things that we've learned is around how our printers are already measuring production information. So they are like a low-cost sensor or something that that is recording how many products it's printing each day. So that is some production information, and actually we've now worked to develop an OEE metric that takes into account what's happening on the line in general, not just what's happening with our printer. It's looking at whether the production line itself has any inefficiencies. So we've been able to add a bit more value in that area.
Thank you. Jenny Rode, I see you have your hand up. Would you like to ask your question, please? You can turn on your microphone at the bottom of the screen.
I think, yes, I've done that. Hello, yes, thank you. I work with businesses on revenue streams, so looking for new revenue streams is relevant to what I do, but I've also been thinking a lot about digitalization and also the path to needing or to products that will benefit from the 5G capability, which is much talked about at the moment, but maybe rather out of reach. I'd just be interested, particularly maybe Stefano, in your view of how far along that path are we, and how much is a current infrastructures limiting what can be done in terms of servitization and those kind of offerings.
Thanks, Jenny. Over to you, Stefano.
Yes, yes, interesting question. I go back here, so here we are. So in order to be effective, all the IoT layer must be exploited. So the role of 5G is to make sure that connectivity is in place 100% of the time. So I see that this is a challenge in some way. So there is, yes, a lot of work to be done in this area. So cellular connectivity, 5G connectivity, in my opinion, could be a solution, but still a long road to be done. But it is true that if you build in our, we see it very much. So if you start building up a connected service solution, you really understand how connectivity is important. So at the beginning, many customers are saying, okay, we can build a connected product, we can attach the product to the Wi-Fi of the customer. Okay, seems a quick solution, but after having deployed many solutions, we really understand how it is important that the connectivity should be guaranteed over the world. So I think that one of the most important challenges is to have a true global connectivity. So I dream a day where we could have a true global connectivity, because now could be a difficulty to sell products all over the world. I say in China, Russia, Arab Emirates, just a names of a few countries that could have some difficulty implementing cellular connectivity. So this is, in the future, this should be addressed.
Thank you. That's very helpful. Thank you.
Thanks, Jeff. Your question. Going back to my metaphor of climbing the hill and seeing new hills ahead, new sources of value. Andrew, can I come back to you now and say, are you beginning to see new sources of value coming from the data and the connectivity that you have?
Yeah, we are, but and I agree with what Kate and Stefano have said. One of the things that I think I've noticed a shift in my thinking, and is that is the mental model we have here that we just sort of collect everything we can into this massive kind of data lake, and then we start fishing through it looking for valuable insights, or go back to some of the sharp end of value proposition that Kate was talking about. Really, if you don't know what you're doing, if you don't know why you're collecting some of this data, there is a school of thought that we should question why we're doing it at all if we don't know what it's for. At the other end of the scale is starting with a value proposition where you're speaking to customers who understand a pain or a gain they're seeking. You then work down to solve that, we would have to provide this service. To provide that service, we would have to have this information. To have that information, we have to have this data. So you work backwards towards deciding what data you need. And I don't think it's either or, actually. I think there is value to exploring data with an open mind and thinking, what could we do with this data? We've discovered some of that. We did some recent energy trials, and as a spin-off of that, we discovered that we could do something else with the energy information to help with condition monitoring. But that was not the original intention of the trial. It was a spin-off of discovering that data. We're also tracing backwards towards value propositions. So from value propositions towards, okay, if we're going to provide that to you, then we would need this data. And I think it was mentioned in the servitization conference that customers are often a little bit jumpy if you start from the point of view of, we'd like to connect your equipment to the internet. If you start, we had a discussion with a key customer where they've always been very concerned, a little bit not excited about having their industrial equipment connected to the web. But if you start from the value proposition and work backwards, and they are hooked on the value proposition, and by the time you start coming to discuss, okay, well, we're going to need this data, they already have in their mind the goal and the prize, and then it's going, oh, of course, if we get that, of course we'll give you the data. So I think working from both ends makes sense, and I think that's been a little bit of a shift in our minds.
Thanks, Andrew. That's very helpful, and I am struck by the fact that if we were all historians, we would be looking back and saying, well, why didn't you collect that data at the time? Because now I could build a new model or offer a new service because I would have the information or the data and then the information coming from behind that. But on the other hand, just collecting data for the sake of collecting data might not be the best way forward. Often in terms of developing your services, it's much better to have a specific theory that you test, collect a little bit of data, test it, and if that works, you can move forward. If not, you can come up with another theory, collect that data, and then test that. Yeah, so thank you very much, Andrew. Ian, I think you want to make a comment or a question.
I was going to build on the point Andrew made, and you went down that route as well, Neil, which is the testing of hypotheses. So I think Andrew, you're quite right. The getting the customer to open up with the promise of potential value proposition, they get comfortable and it overcomes the barrier. But as Neil said, I think if you have a theory or hypothesis you're testing, that allows you to look for data. I think looking for data without a purpose becomes quickly overwhelming. But if you're looking for something with a hypothesis testing, you can prove or disprove your hypothesis, but it also, as you explained with your energy example, you find other things you weren't expecting to find. But I think the act of purposeful looking rather than just gathering everything you can is a very different mental activity. And hence, I think you do get those spin-off learnings that you wouldn't otherwise have spotted because you were actually looking for something in the first place. So I think that's a very valuable way of looking at data. And I know Andy Schroeder's on the call as well, and I'm sure he would reinforce the idea that you should be thinking about your value before you start collecting your data, because it may drive you to collect different things, and maybe things outside of your existing maybe products that you're offering. It could be environmental or surrounding data, which you realise is important when you reflect on the purpose with which you're gathering your data. That's my only observation, just building what Andrew said there, Neil.
Thank you, Ian. Jumping forward now to for everybody, what next? If you wanted to get more information on Domino Printing Sciences, there is their URL there, so you can connect with them. And similarly for Servitly, and more information on the services that Servitly can provide. And through both of those websites, you will be able to reach out to Kate at Domino and Stefano at Servitly. Also, you can come to our website, servicesgroup.co.uk. We have case studies available there, which give you more information on various companies that have gone through or are partway through a transformation to advanced services. And the other guides where you see the sort of capital A there, those are mini guides which can be purchased, and they take you through different aspects of the servitization journey. And I would like to announce that from now to the end of the month, we're offering a lockdown learning discount on all servitization publications that are in Arch. Again, that's on our website of the Advanced Services Group. So I'd like to take this opportunity to thank Kate and Stefano very much for their presentations and preparation that went into making today a success, and thank all of you for your attendance. And I also thank Andrew for suddenly becoming a volunteer presenter for a few minutes. So thank you all very much indeed, and look out for the next opportunity to learn more about advanced services on our next webinar. Thank you all very much. Bye for now.